Welcome, everyone, to the Fellowship That Gains podcast. My name is Jesse Grund. I'm the owner of Unconventional Strength, and I'm one of your hosts.
I'm Andrew Dettelbach. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm the owner of Wealth.
Your head motion reminded me of Jim Carrey quite a bit, like Ace Ventura.
Jim Carrey is like my idol. So anything that I watched so much Jim Carrey as a kid that it's definitely translated into all my goofy antics online.
We should definitely discuss underrated Jim Carrey roles, because I think Ace Ventura 1 gets a lot of love, but I was watching Ace Ventura 2 the other day, and I was just like, hey, there's my thumbs up. I got to stop
When Nature Calls.
Dude, When Nature Calls.
It's my favorite.
So
people really love the first one, and the second one has always been my favorite.
I love the second one so much. When he gets the, don't just stand there, throw me a spear, and he gets it in the leg, and he's like, throw me another. Yes, exactly. I think Tommy Davidson is like the little, like he's on the back of the other guy, and it's so underrated. I love that movie so much. It's so good. It made a lot of money. Made a lot of money.
Just it's the hot in these rhinos. I say that all the time.
Let's stop. That one's having a baby. It's really good. I actually think the movie, not to tangent Jim Carrey stuff, but the movie I laughed hardest at that was Jim Carrey related was Liar Liar. I don't think I've laughed harder in a movie theater than I did with Not Liar Liar. It's just
I saw that once. I don't remember it very well.
Oh, you got to go back and watch. I mean,
obviously he lies about everything, right?
He's always lying.
And then he has to tell the truth.
And then he has to tell the truth. But he's trying to lie, but then tells the truth. So there's like this whole sequence with a pin where he's like, the pin is blue, but it's a blue pin. He's trying to say red. And then he's just like fighting to say red. And all of a sudden he starts like writing on himself. It's just,
he's just ridiculous.
The whole movie is amazing. I love, and I really love like where he dove into as an actor too. I thought that was pretty remarkable. Some of the stuff that he did. Man on the Moon stuff is just weird. I don't know if you ever got a chance to watch the documentary about it, but it's weird. But
his
him
stand
and
up is a trip. Have you seen his
my gosh, his In Living Color days were they were completely underrated, because that's when he was doing a lot of his stand up at the time.
Suspected that he has some form of connective tissue disorder because of the things that he was doing.
He can do, yes.
Get his arm, and like he would just flop to the ground. He had tons of internal rotation to just drop to the floor with his.
Yeah, yes.
So he's very peculiar.
I love his stuff. My brother, shout out to my brother Chris, is a huge Jim Carrey fan. He used to be able to do the scene from the first movie where he's like, let's see that in instant replay, where he goes into rewind. He used to do yes. So shout out Jim, if you ever listen to the show, we'd love to have you on. We love your stuff. He's been great as Professor Robotnik in the Sonic movies. Just exceptional. If you get a chance to watch
Sonics, no.
Oh, Sonic 3, he's an older version of Robotnik as well, and they have like a dance scene together, and it's just Google that and watch the YouTube video of it, but he's amazing as Robotnik. Amazing as Robotnik. But enough about Jim Carrey. We could probably talk about Jim Carrey for forever.
I think so.
Yeah, speaking of an amazing group of films, I think you just finished a group of movies that we challenged you to watch recently.
Yeah, and we can talk about those later if we want, or now. I don't care.
Now it's a
great. Did we say we're going to talk about our top 5 lower body exercises?
We're going to. I want to set up. Let's lead into it. Okay. The podcast title episode is top 5 lower body exercises that you aren't doing. However, I do want to talk about John Wick, because he obviously does some lower body exercises. I think it's pretty obvious from the film. So, Andrew, now that you've been through the entire Wick saga, do you feel enlightened from it?
So the thing that I learned from every film is that no matter how many times you shoot somebody or stab them, you have to finish with at least a minimum of 1 headshot, maybe 2 or 3.
Right.
That's what I learned from
all the movies. All 4 of them.
Well,
that's what I learned.
Have you ever watched them all back to back within like a week?
I haven't. I feel like that's a challenge that I would love to do if I had like I've got the man flu. I'm staying home. I'm going to watch all 4 John Wick movies in a row.
Doing that made the second one entirely forgettable. Like, I do not remember anything that happened in the second one.
I think we talked, my text to you was the first movie feels like a prequel and the second movie feels like the first movie in the series because everything just kind of degenerates from there, in my opinion. The third one's great, but I think it's really more so because of like Halle Berry is just so unforgettable in it, and then a lot of like the fight scenes in the Continental were pretty awesome. But man, that fourth movie, they were just like, hey, we are going to do all of the coolest fight choreography you have ever seen, and by the way, he's now wearing an Iron Man suit. Because
because that's a thing.
Right. He's like, he's got the most plot armor ever. Like the sequence where he literally fell down the stairs. The second time he falls down the stairs, I audibly exclaimed in the movie theater, "Oh, come on."
Just on the last flight of stairs?
Yes.
Just the nonstop falling.
The nonstop falling down the stairs. Come on.
Talking about that right before I watched the movies, you talked about that. And that was, I don't know, you were going to talk to Kevin about it. What was it that you were going to say about that particular scene? Just that he kept falling, or?
Well, what I said, which is like, dude gets hit by cars. He gets all these things. But him falling down the stairs 2 times in a row and getting up to go back up the stairs again, I'm like, people die all the time from falling downstairs. Like, like he's wearing Iron Man armor, or he's actually Neo in the Matrix, and he doesn't have any of his memories, and that's what's going on. Is that he's Neo? That's the secret. That's the thing that's happening in the background.
The other thing that I learned is this whole like underground hitman scene. It was really cool. I like that little aspect of it.
Yeah.
But it just seems that they all just hit on each other. Like, it's just like, we need this hitman to hit this man. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, what about just the normal? I thought they were just meant to go kill regular people, influential people. Like, you don't see any of that in the movie. It's just like,
no. I think they tried to do that in the television show, but then the television show, they didn't like really consult the makers very much, and so it failed like miserably. It was done after like a season. It was called the Continental. It didn't do well. I heard this new one, Ballerina, is supposed to be really good though, which is set in the same universe with Ana de Armas in it.
I didn't get that one. I only bought the 4 movies.
It just came out. It's barely even like on digital yet, so it just came out a couple of months ago. Yes. Yes, so you have another thing to watch that's in the John Wick.
The other thing that I found curious is that, all right, so I looked up the numbers. He kills like 500 or 600 people across the several movies, not including whatever happened before the movies came on the scene. So he has like this big background story of like the most epic things that he's done, and everyone knows about it. I forget what they called him. He's the boogeyman. They used some Russian
Baba
word.
Yaga.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, but no matter how many people he kills, just a whole nother group of just like 100 people are like, I'm gonna get him this time, and then they go after him, and I'm like, have you guys not figured out that you're not special enough to deal with this dude?
Right is there a point where you just look at you go, nah, I'm not, you guys got this, I'm out, thank you
so
though.
This brings me to the point of the how many men, the 100 men versus a gorilla thing. Like, you would need a bunch of insane men that all think that they can take on this gorilla individually to go after, like, because I'm not doing it. Like, I don't care how many men are there. I'm not going after gorilla because I might be the one that gets my head swiped off. Same thing with John Wick. Why would you even consider?
I think there's 2 things that I love. One is the line from the first movie. It was like, I heard you struck my son. It's like, yeah, he stole John Wick's car and he killed his dog, and the guy just goes, oh, and then just hangs up. Which is like, it was the perfect like set the stand of like, oh, he messed with the wrong guy. I saw a meme that I just love to no end, and it's Thanos talking about killing 50% of like everybody, and one of his minions goes, but sir, you killed his dog. Whose dog? And John Wick just comes out, my dog. And I'm like, Perfect. No notes.
How many hits from Thanos' backhand do you think John Wick would survive?
I don't know, man. He, again, I mean, if he's Neo and it's the Matrix, he's got a really good shot. I'm just saying. So I'm gonna honor my end of the discussion, which is if you watched all the John Wick movies, I will play this turn-based RPG Expedition 33 once the gym renovation is done, because right now it's just the world is a gym renovation right now. So once the gym renovation is done, I will jump in.
So I need to share. I did a few turn-based games in the past, and I never made it past the first few minutes. Then Baldur's Gate 3 came out, and it had so much hype. And I was like, I need to do it. I mean, it looks wonderful. So I got it. I played it for like 3 hours, and was just like, this is not it. I cannot handle. There's so many choices, but then also I'm like, all right, I'm going to spend 3 hours going through this one dungeon. And like, it's just the beginning of the game, and I suck. And I don't like how slow this is. I put that down. So I understand the hesitancy of turn-based because I don't like it.
I think the only turn-based game that I like playing was the South Park turn-based games, and that's because it was just so ridiculous that it fit the universe quite well. So there's.
But I listen to the album from Clair Obscur on a daily basis.
Yeah,
it's
got a really solid lineup of actors. I think the guy who plays Daredevil, what's his name? Gosh, I can't remember the actor's name. Charlie Cox, I think, maybe it might be his name. Charlie Cox, yes, COX. I think he's in Expedition 33, so I know that's got a pretty good group of actors that are in it. So I am going to honor my end and give it a shot, probably on my Xbox, because then I don't have to pay for it, as opposed to my PlayStation where I'd have to buy it. So I am going to give it the old college try. So
can I tell you a little bit of the backstory?
Of the game?
Of the company. No, not of the game.
Oh, no, of the company. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of, I don't know if it was Microsoft people or whatever. I think it's 50 people, right? And then they found the writer on Reddit. So the guy who wrote the game is from Reddit. And then they found the composer for the music on SoundCloud. So it's just like they just kind of threw some stuff together, and like the end credits are super short. There's not a lot going on. It's just really, I think what this game does will hopefully make all these AAA games much better. We have way too many flops come onto the scene.
Yeah, so I have a client. He works in video game. He's a narrative director for a video game that they're working on right now. I don't think it's a lot with the developers. I think it's a lot with the studios and the overseers trying to put out stuff before it's ready, and then saying, hey, we'll do updates as it goes, but we told them this was going to be our release date, so we have to have it done by this date type thing. And I don't think it's the right way to make video games, and we're seeing that in the industry right now. We're actually seeing a huge decrease in games being bought at launch right now. We've seen, I think it was a 30% drop off, which is pretty substantial. So we are seeing some effects in the video game industry. We're also seeing AI come into making video games now. So a lot of people are getting laid off, which stinks because they're automating a bunch of the processes that are associated with it. But I really hope that we keep humans involved in making video games, because a lot of the narratives that we love, I mean, look at Elden Ring. I mean, Elden Ring was partially written by George R.R. Martin. So like him writing some of the narrative of that and having humans directing that game is what I think made it so just amazing. I mean, look at Witcher, the kind of same thing. I just finished the part of Witcher 3 where an important character passes away that makes everybody emotional. I don't want to put any spoilers out there, though the game has been out for a long time. Wick. Yeah, we didn't really spoil anything for John Wick. We're good. We just said he fell down the stairs a couple times. It could have been any stairs. So I do think that human involvement in video games needs to continue, and I do think that some better games are made by people who care about what they're making as well. And I think that kind of goes for everything, right?
that comes through in this game.
Yes. Yeah, which is good. So I will play Expedition 33, but I am not going to sacrifice my workouts to play a video game. So I want to talk about top 5 exercises, leg exercises that you are not doing. And by you, I mean you, the listener, not me and Andrew, because we do lots of different exercises. Lots. So let's specify what a leg exercise is. So pretty much anything from the waist down that involves the hip joint or the knee joint as primary movers, and even the foot and ankle complex. So those are what would be what we call lower body exercises. I don't want to include any full body things like, a clean, for instance, is not what I would consider a lower body exercise per se. Is the lower body a huge driver for it? Absolutely. But there is a pull and a shrug. There. Yeah, exactly. So though that seems redundant, I do want to be specific with what we are using for lower body exercises, and we'll be talking about a variety a day. We each have a top 5 that we're going to go through, and I'm going to let Andrew, because it's alphabetical order, kick it off. So Andrew, what's your first one?
First one, keeping it simple, single leg deadlift. So I thought about doing a full body deadlift, but I think that there's so much more variation doing single leg, and it could be single leg deadlift or an RDL or a stiff leg, but just single leg something. And I think that the ability to load it in different ways. You've been having me do a lot of landmine single leg deadlifts, and I think that's awesome because it kind of helps you stabilize as well. You're connected to an anchor point, so it is kind of closed chain for that upper body, so that you kind of get rid of the balance component. I think if you're doing a single leg deadlift and you're focused on balance, that's a different story. But if you're stabilizing yourself and doing one, it really allows you to target the hamstring and the glute. And if you pivot your pelvis one direction or the other, you can target muscles a little bit differently. So I find that there's just a lot of options with a single leg deadlift, and you don't have to go as heavy. So if you don't have hundreds of pounds at your disposal, you can grab the 50-pound weight, even less, and get a really good workout done with targeting the hamstrings and the glutes and feel great.
Yeah, I love single leg deadlift, both RDL and standard variation. Common fault I see most people do when they're doing the single leg deadlift is they'll rotate their pelvis up, so they turn it kind of into an airplane, just like unconsciously. And if you're doing that, so basically what it'll feel like is instead of your hips being square to the ground, whatever your base leg is, you'll feel like you're kind of leaning into that side, which can really just make it more of a glute medius stabilizing exercise as opposed to like taking the hip through full flexion and extension.
A little bit of adductor as well. So if you're doing it on purpose for that reason,
exactly, then it's technically an airplane, which is great. But if you want to, if you're struggling with that, just take your back foot and put it down in like a B stance or elevate it up on something behind you. I think any of those variations are good for people who have pelvic control issues. But yeah, I'm a big fan of, I think most of this list for me is going to be unilateral exercises, just because, I think they're the best bang for your buck for most human beings, unless you're competing in something where you need bilateral strength. So yeah, single leg deadlift. You're doing it with a landmine right now, but if you had to choose a modality to do single leg deadlifts with, what are you choosing?
I might stabilize the hand on like one of those Liebert bar things, or whatever, that's what I have in my gym, and then hold a dumbbell or kettlebell with the other side, and maybe even kind of cross over, so I'm dropping the hip down on that side.
Nice.
Just so that I'm lengthening that tissue even more.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying the landmine.
So mine, I'm going to start out, and again, I am a strength and conditioning coach by trade, so one of my favorite variations that I think works really well for both athletes and non-athletes are Hatfield Split Squats. So if you're not familiar with what a Hatfield
is,
so I'll explain. So Hatfield just means hand supported. So he was the coach who just came up with it. So basically you're putting your hand on something to kind of assist with it. So you could also call it a hand assisted split squat. And I do think using a safety squat bar is ideal when you're doing these. You can use a barbell. You just have to maintain a specific amount of hinge while you're doing it. But man, one, I think they're safer, and two, you can really overload them, which is pretty awesome. There was a viral video going out recently of a NFL head coach who was doing like 300-pound Hatfield split squats, And people are like, oh, well, don't use your hands. And see, I'm like, I want to see you put 300 on your back and do a split squat, and let's see how it goes. But it's a really, to me, I think it's one of the safest. One, you're not fighting so much for stability, which if you want to turn it into a stabilization exercise, take your hands off and then focus on stability. But if you really want to load up single leg, I think it's a great opportunity to do it. You use your hands sparingly. I mean, you're not trying to go crazy with your hands. If you want to go even more isolated in the front leg, you can elevate that rear foot. But if you just want to do split squats on the ground, I find them being an amazing addition to most people's programs. All you need to have access to a safety squat bar and some sort of cage or rack to be able to do it. You can support your hands. They make pins that you can support with, or you can just use the squat rack itself. But to me, it's one of my favorite variations. We can do endurance, we can do strength, we can do power. Hatfield split squats are probably one of my favorites for both athletes and non-athletes.
So I actually have, my second one is rear foot elevated split squat. So, I mean, I'm on the same page there. I think it's just again, you don't have to worry about loading up super heavily if you don't have that available. I thought about putting squats on this list and I didn't, which is surprising because I feel like they're also a really great exercise, but I'm kind of looking at this from the standpoint of maybe just someone kind of getting into fitness. And from my background of working with people with pain, I think that just a split squat variation can be really helpful if someone has pain in the back. That can take off some of the, I don't know if you've ever experienced like back pain, but split squats are a super solid way to just kind of bypass that. Same with single leg RDLs.
Yeah, I think unilateral variations in general are, I remember hearing Mike Boyle talk about, if you all don't know who Mike Boyle is, he's a very famous strength and conditioning coach. Created a certification program called CFSC, so Certified Functional Strength and Conditioning thing. Anyway, Mike's a really smart guy. We don't always agree with everything he says, but that's the cool thing about science. We can all agree and disagree on things. That's the sandbox we play in. But he was like 80-20. He's like 80% of the time, I'm doing unilateral work with my athletes. And he's training guys in Major League Baseball, NFL. I mean, he's got a huge facility where basically Major League Baseball players come through there on a regular basis. And he's like 80% of my lower body work is almost all unilateral. And so when working with Gen Pop, and this is for most of you who are listening to this, single leg variations don't cause as much loading into like the SI joint for people who don't understand how pelvic control works. And so it ends up being a safer position for most people to be able to get like a large amount of stimulus. Even cable single leg variations are huge. Step ups, any of those things that really focus on, unilateral is going to give you a lot of bang for your buck. It's going to be safer. I call them LRHRs. They're low risk, high reward exercises. You can either do it or you can't. It's going to burn or it doesn't. And so for most people, like you said, split squats are a great addition. For me, I think the king of lower body exercises in the gym, if you're looking for just straight function in the hips, glutes, knees, feet, all that stuff, is a walking lunge, getting into your deepest possible ranges of motion. What do I mean by that? So the standard of a walking lunge is taking steps and, shook the entire world. Taking steps and kind of 90-90 with the hips, right? Back hips in extension, front hips in flexion, almost like you're taking a knee on the ground. You're going to have a little bit of stretch in your back hip, and we're not really shooting that knee very far forward over the midfoot when we do walking lunges. But if you make one little addition, one little change, it completely opens up new ranges of motion and strength and resilience in places you never thought about. So I've been doing these a lot recently. I've been programming them over the last few years, and I'm just like, hey, I'm going to start doing them myself. And I can't tell you how great everything feels. Also very quivering and shaky when I do it afterwards.
So what did you change about it?
So when you're stepping, instead of just going straight down, keep your front heel flat and try and drive your front knee as far forward over your midfoot as you can. So again, and then you're hinging as you're doing this. So you're trying to create as much active hip extension as you can in the back hip. And now you can either, do those walking lunges where you step up and then step into the next one, or push right into the next rep. And I'm telling you what, if you want to find deep ranges of motion when it comes to hip flexion and extension, these are the money makers. And any locomotive exercise that you do is going to have amazing carryover into just the way that you move outside the gym.
Not that he created it, but he's popularized it. Knees over toes guy has made that lunge look, it's kind of what I'm picturing. Obviously not to that extreme.
He elevates the front heel for the ATG split squat. So he elevates the front heel so that there's like, you can get into deeper ranges. But again, that's more to me of a passive range at that point, because your heel's elevated. So you're not really accessing the ankle very much.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I think that's elevating the heel. I think it's helpful for someone who's doing a bilateral squat.
Sure.
In my opinion, so that you can keep your torso more upright if that's what you're looking for. It doesn't really make sense to me for the lunge.
No, it doesn't. And that's why those are more so for them. I think they're doing more ATG split squats. And for those of you at home, I was just teaching this over the weekend. Squats are stationary, lunges have locomotion to them. So if you're in a split position and just moving up and down, that's a squat to me. So it's a split squat. Right. If I have to move in and out of position, that's the locomotion element. So now you have a lunge. So lunges need inherently locomotion. You have to decelerate and accelerate as you're moving from wherever your base position is to whatever direction you're trying to travel. So I think the knees over toes people, they use the ATG split squat where they're stationary and they're just kind of driving forward, driving back. And they're really focusing on, I think, knee flexion and extension stuff, which I don't think there's anything wrong with if somebody doesn't have knee pathology. What I'm talking about, though, is take that heel out of elevation and force the ankle to work, the knee to work, and the back hip to work when you do this. And I tell you what, if you have the prerequisites to do it, if you don't have, knee pathology or, really like foot or that sort of pain, and you can do these, try them the next time you start doing your walking lunges and feel the massive difference in the way that you're lunging.
So I don't have like a number one on this list. My second one is going to be Nordics, both of them, reverse and traditional Nordic curls. I think that it's something that I have people do in my programs as well, even when they're just overcoming pain in the very beginning of the program. And it's something that can just be accessed with your feet under a couch, putting a towel tied up under your door, or sheet tied up under your door, and you can access doing full like Nordic curls. I don't have them do full Nordic curls. They may be just leaning like a few degrees forward, to help them tap into their hamstrings and strengthen the core. And then the reverse Nordics for blasting the legs, like the quads.
God, right.
And right over the patella. Even it doesn't have to be like, I see people on social media, and I've done it as well, where I go all the way back and I touch my head to the floor and come back up. That's not realistic, and I actually don't train that ever. It's just like, this is a cool party trick that looks cool on social media.
Very much so.
So, and also people like they'll be standing on a bench and they'll like drop down, do like a full sissy squat all the way to the ground, touching their knees to the floor. I'm like, that's just, you don't need to do that. But Nordics, even in a small range of motion, so Nordic curl, you're on your knees, you've got your feet anchored, and your knees, hips, shoulders, and head are all fairly in line. You lean forward. There's variations to this. You can hinge at the hips, and that'll target a little bit more proximally or distally on the hamstring, meaning it's going to target more toward your butt or to your knee, depending on where your hips are. And those are just great ways to target the hamstring without using any weight at all. Just use your own body weight. I still don't go all the way to the floor. I'm not strong enough for that. So I'm just doing, fairly small ranges of motion.
Yeah, I think I did. I've got one of those benches, kind of like you, not the freak athlete one, but the other one where I can adjust the bench to what I can go to right now. And I'm at like the 25-degree mark where I can do them down to the bench and back up again. Anytime I try the zeros, it's really more so just to work an eccentric. But I really love the invention of that bench to do that. I think that's a pretty awesome thing that they've invented. But yeah, reverse Nordics are pretty much in all my. It's a funny anecdote. We had Kyle O'Reilly on here a couple weeks ago, and Kyle was in a match and he was getting kneed in the head. This happened recently, and he told Roddy, his tag team partner, he goes, "Hey, when they knee me in the head, I'm going to do reverse Nordic." And like in the match. So I'm going to find the clip. I'll send it to producer Kevin so he can insert it in here. But he was on his knees. He got hit by two knees and reversed Nordic to the ground, which I was like, I'm so
Did he
proud
come
of
back
you
up,
right
or
now.
did he just stay there?
No, he's knocked out. So he went down. And he went down like really far, but then his knees came out. But like it was like I was so proud of him as a coach. I was like, hey, you're applying it in real life. That's amazing. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
I've never been great at Nordic curls, nor do I think so. I am gonna have a dissenting opinion on this. I do think Nordic curls can be a great exercise within a really strong program. But I think anybody who overemphasizes Nordic curl as a way to, I guess the right terminology would be, this is going to bulletproof your hamstring from pulls. To me, it doesn't make any sense. Um,
Well,
when we
that's
think when we think about the mechanism that's occurring during hamstring pulls, it's typically with the knee in an extended position and the hip in an extended position, and we're usually getting that. Those hamstring pulls are usually occurring due to proximal limitations, not distal limitations. And so, yes, can not Copenhagen? That was going to be my next one. But can Nordics be a great addition to an overall program? They absolutely can, but they shouldn't be the thing that you're like, hey, these are going to make my knees healthy and going to bulletproof my hamstrings,
no,
because
that
it don't work
wasn't
like that.
necessarily the
I don't
intent of
think you
me
were.
adding
I'm
it in
just
there. It's definitely just an easy, accessible thing that people
yes,
can
and
toss in. I think
I'm not criticizing you, Andrew. I am just
you
putting
have
that out
me
there into
doing
the
it.
ether.
He
I'm
has
not
me
doing it.
doing it in my program once every 3
Yeah.
weeks.
Yes. Yes. So I do think that they have benefit and value, especially if I'm training the eccentric function of the hamstring, for sure. But I do think that adding velocity-based movements to the hamstring then become even more important, and just the ability for you to be able to get into better controlled positions of hip extension. We could talk an entire show about why I think hamstrings pull as often as they do in sports, but we'll just leave it at I don't think that they are the gold standard that everyone tends to make them out to be, and I think research actually supports me.
I could actually use some. So, like, I was a really good sprinter
Mm-hmm.
in college.
Nice.
I wasn't on any team. I would just sprint with the track team. And got out of college, lived life, been running businesses, and I went and tried to sprint with my youngest like 4 years ago, and had a proximal hamstring pull that I just
Mm-hmm.
dealt with for a couple of years. I would love to be able to get back into sprinting. It's not something I've tried to do
Mm-hmm.
because I'll experience that again, kind of thing.
We can
Not like
talk.
at a high speed. I
We can
can't
talk
do
about
that
that for you.
anymore.
We can stay tuned, everybody, when I put that in one of his next programs, so we can see it. He's basically a sitting petri dish for all my programs.
I think I just want to, as an aside, like I think, I know a lot about injury and pain. I don't know everything, and I think that anyone who claims to know everything is insane.
Yeah, we don't. I don't think anybody knows everything when it comes to that stuff. Um, so I'm gonna keep the slider one for fourth, but I think this is my third. Uh, Copenhagen, but not so. Real quick, I think Copenhagen planks can be great for learning control of the adductor. Copenhagen lift-offs, I think, are a better tool for most people. Planks are great. They can teach you concentrically how to turn something on. But I think actually learning how to get in and out of position and putting some eccentric emphasis on it is a even better tool. So my next one would be Copenhagen's when we start working into frontal plane stuff. If you guys don't understand frontal plane, sagittal is kind of up and down, forward and backward. Frontal is side to side, and then a transverse is 360 degrees. So basically, it cuts you in the middle. But most people, I would say, predominantly train their legs in the sagittal plane, up and down and forward and backward. And one of the biggest opportunities tends to be in the frontal plane for most people. I think a lot of blamed hip flexor stuff is from inefficient frontal plane stuff, because the hip just, if it's inefficient, you'll take the femur and it'll start to come down as a result. And so one of the most important things is to actually strengthen that entire complex. So glute medius, adductor, making sure that is in line and you have synergy there, being able to abduct the leg away. And I think Copenhagen lift-offs, and you can just start with a knee bent variation, doesn't have to be a leg straight variation, is the best starting point for most people, in my opinion.
My next two are in the frontal plane as well. I want to say the Copenhagens are one of the most challenging exercises that I have done in the last year. Because I did them on occasion, but for me, if I have my legs straight with like my foot on the bench and I have a very long distance, it just rips into my adductor at the knee. It is so incredibly painful. So I've been doing it with my knee on the bench, with my knee bent. Like I've had to regress it a ton to be able to do those. And I've gradually worked closer to my feet being on the bench. It's a difficult movement at first.
Yes, agreed. But yeah, Copenhagen's for sure.
My next one it sounds like one of ours is similar. So I'm going to say this one first. It's kind of out of left field, a dragon squat. Now, I cannot do a dragon squat, first of all. I cannot. However, the progressions for it, I think, are excellent for opening up the outside of the hip and strengthening the adductor. So you're having, when you do a dragon, you have to squeeze your legs together and like reach the free leg out as far as you can as you bend and rotate your body. So you're loading that standing hip. So it's a frontal plane movement, but you're getting the adductor and the abductors and the glutes. I mean, it's a brutal exercise, and I've never successfully been able to do one all the way to the ground and back up. I can get to the ground, I just can't come back up. And so I think it's the progressions more so, not necessarily the exercise itself. If you can achieve the exercise, you're off to the races.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I actually have. So we do a tap matrix in our warm up. And one of the tap matrix points that you try and reach to is kind of like a dragon squat.
And that's my favorite one of that whole sequence. I think it's 8 points. That's the only one that I'm like, this is hard.
Oh, so the up and across is easy for you?
Yeah, I think I have insane hip mobility.
Ooh, I want a video. I want to see.
My hip IR is pretty sweet.
Well, I just developed a stick mobility based warm up for that, so stay tuned. There's something stick based coming. Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So that kind of takes me into my left field one, which does require you to have the simplest, cheapest lower body tool in the entire world, which is a pair of furniture sliders. So there is so much that you can do with a pair of furniture sliders. Sliders work great because you're then moving through range while having to isometrically contract stuff, so you get more eccentric lengthening while you're doing things. To me, it's so underrated using them. So my gym is mostly turf, so we tend to use sliders with our workouts. And one of my favorite slider exercises to do is a hand-supported, so whether you're using a ladder, a rack, a TRX, whatever you want to use, lateral lunge, and just really putting, if I'm side facing on my left side, my left arm's got the ladder, my left knee is going to bend, and I'm going to A-B duck to that right foot while it's pushing the slider and try and go out as far as I can and then back up again. And so you want to talk about...
For people that are like, I can't picture that. It's a side lunge, essentially. It's a side sliding lunge. Out into that lunge position.
It's almost like sliding into a half split and coming back up again is basically what you're trying to do. And it is an absolute burner when we come to talking about the function that occurs in the hip in that frontal plane that I've been discussing. In my estimation, there are a few exercises that expose you more to frontal plane forces, like using a slider and just having a little hands, and literally the hand support's there so you can feel safer getting into those deeper ranges.
So you're not
and not feel like you're going to fall
out
over
into the splits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
we can't Jean-Claude Van Damme this one.
If anyone has done Pilates or Legree, they're similar. One's like CrossFit, but it's Pilates. And then if anyone's ever done that, like using a reformer with the springs on it is also, that's like their number one thing. Like you're doing that every single class, is that side lunge kind of position.
Side lunge. Yeah. I have a specialized piece of equipment here that my buddy Pete Holman made called the Glute slide. And you can do them on the Glute slide, and it is gnarly. It is absolutely gnarly when we do them on the Glute slide. So shout out to Pete, fitness inventor. And he's invented so much stuff, man. Rip Trainer, Golf Forever, Nautilus Glute Drive, now Glute Slide. Pete's a great dude. He's a really good dude. PT based out of Colorado, but he developed the Glute Slide, and the Glute Slide it's a gnarly little piece. I really, really like it. It's fire. Andrew, number 5 for you.
Last one is similar to what you just said, a Cossack squat. So it's
Mm,
not so much the adductor that's getting worked, but you are working the adductor.
yeah.
I think it's just a great way to tap into the full range of motion of the hip. On for my list of things that I kind of talked about, like, there's nothing that like takes you down through a full range if you can do it. I didn't just start being able to do a Cossack squat. So Cossack is a side lunge where you're kind of turning the foot up to point up toward, so the knee and the foot are pointing up toward the sky. That's going to help open up your hip capsule. It's going to stretch your hamstrings a ton. And so I actually started with like stacks of plates. Like I think it was
Mm.
like 345s. And I would just come over. So I was like barely doing the side lunge, and over probably 6 months, my hamstrings and hips opened up to be able to get all the way down to the floor to sit down, like do a bunch of stupid stuff for social media. That's not the actual Cossack squat, but like getting down low as you can, because you're having to use that outside leg. You have to drive it into the floor the whole time. And while you're doing that, so you're lengthening that hamstring and adductor tissue as you drop down, and it just shreds. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love Cossacks. I have some of my clients when we're working on hip function do bottom up Cossack holds where they get into that deep position and they just come up. They're just supposed to come up like 1 inch off the box and hold it just so they can learn what that bottom position feels like. I'll have to send you a video. I chased deep Cossacks during 2020. So when we were all stuck at home and I had a couple of kettlebells that I was training with and I was chasing and I got really like basically like ass to grass Cossack squat going on during that time period. And it's just,
It's fun once you get there.
yeah,
If you get there, like that's how I feel about the dragon. Like if I could get to the bottom of the dragon, I'd be like, yeah, this is cool, and it gets really easy, and it's really easy to keep once you get it. Yeah.
yeah. So I was debating this last one. I had two in mind. And shout out to the honorable mention, which is the kettlebell swing, because I love ballistic hip extension and I love kettlebell swings. But I think this one's more important, and I think it's because this is where a lot of people struggle. And I did a top-down step-ups. Okay, so go get a box 18 to 20 inches. And why I chose this over the kettlebell swing is not because of the same exercise, but because I feel like you have more load variance and hip change variance, like position change with a top-down step-up, and you get to load plantar fascia tissue. You get to learn how to push off your midfoot. You can really focus on deep levels of hip flexion, and you can play with where your back foot lands to change hip rotation as well. So visualize this. Everybody listening, don't look at me. Close your eyes. You're standing on top of a box in the gym. You've got dumbbells in your hand, and you step back, and as soon as you step down off the box with your right foot, and as soon as that ball of that foot touches the ground, you try and step right back up again. And then the next time, instead of stepping straight back down, you step a little bit over to your left and then a little bit over to your right. And what you don't realize you're doing is you're exposing your hip rotators to different positions for hip extension at the same time. So I love top-down step-ups. I love top-down step-ups. I program them a lot for people. I have had one, and this I wish producer Kevin was on, because as top-down step-up is the one time he's ever gotten injured in the gym was doing a top-down step-up. He popped his gastroc one time, just not being, just it was ready and it went. That's how injuries happen. Things are just ready to go and they go. But everybody else, I think it is an amazing exercise for people to learn how to use their feet, how to work on hip extension, and how to change the angle of force. And you have so much variability that you can play with those. So I'm a big fan.
That's 5 of each.
That's 5 of each, yeah.
We kind of had some overlapping, not necessarily. We didn't have any of the same exact exercises, but they were.
No, I'd like shout out to some of my honorable mentions: kettlebell swing, seated good morning, which you talked about online recently. Seated good morning was another one. Pretty much anything on a TRX. Yeah, pretty much anything on a TRX. Suspended lunges, overhead squat. Pretty much anything on there. I think hamstring runner. My lord, nothing makes my hamstrings cramp like a hamstring runner on a TRX. But I think there are a lot of great lower body exercises. Those 5 are just ones that I think provide you the most amount of load variance. You can be creative with it. You can play with all the different, concentric, eccentric, isometric to it. And it just puts the hip in a well-rounded position, which is honestly what we want the most of.
Yep. I think that's pretty much similar across all of ours, just hitting all the different angles.
Yeah, I mean, and do you know what the best lower body program you can do is? The one you're going to do. So, some advice on what we talked about. And I think, Andrew, it'd probably be really great if we actually took these exercises and did some demos and made some videos for the page. I think it could be really cool for people. Yeah. But I do think that lower body should be trained more than once a week. So if you're only doing lower body 1 time a week, that's a problem. You need to be exposing it to more stimulus.
I want to say, people tell me, they're like, dude, your legs are so big. Like, how do I do that? I'm like, do legs nearly every day.
Right, do more, right? If you like full body workouts, make sure that you're doing just as much upper as you are lower. Add in things that you can do. But I did a post on it today, which is just like, hey, find the things that you can do those things, and do them frequently. And change the way you load it, change the way the tempos that you use, change the modality, which is the equipment that you use, and do it frequently. And that's the best lower body program that you can do. But try to train your lower body more than once a week. You use it more than once a week, just FYI.
And I noticed that my upper body got bigger when I started training more legs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
so if your concern is like, well, I want my upper body to be bigger than training legs.
There's actually, I've got to find this. There was a collection of studies that were done that talk about that larger muscle groups help produce when your larger muscle groups are bigger, that your body produces more testosterone as a result. And the place that you can put on the most amount of muscle is in your lower body.
Legs.
So legs can put on a lot of muscle. Humeruses are great, but femur is a really big, thick bone that's like, hey, put some muscle on me, please. Like, you're going to protect me if you do that. So, I actually naturally increased a client's testosterone production because he came to me, no lower body strength. I was like, hey, we're going to train lower body for 3 months and then go retest. And his test numbers went up to normal. Like, it was insane.
Mine was low. And then I did CrossFit, like learned how to use my lower body, and they went back up to normal ranges.
Yeah. So do lower body training. We could do a top 5 on why lower body training is so important, but really more so today's was just about some 5 exercises that we each love. And I think we are going to do you all that service of doing some demonstration videos of our 5 so you can see them, and we'll just throw them on the social media page. If you're not liking and subscribed to our social media, please go ahead and do that. It means more people get to watch these things and hear from us. So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, we're on now. Thanks, producer Kevin. To go find us at Fellowship of the Gains. And then you can find me at Unconventional Strength and Battle Rope Exercises. And Andrew, where can we find you?
You can find me at Wealth, W-Health.
Health. It's amazing. Well, Andrew, I think that about wraps us up today.
Quick one.
I think we did it. It was a quick one. 50 minutes later. So
I enjoyed it. Thanks for taking the time to do this, Dave.
Always a pleasure, and thanks all of you for being part of the fellowship.
Take care, everybody.